So, I figured I'd try something different tonight. I mean, I usually go on YouNow and I sing. And I do a lot of rock and roll songs, and you guys seem to like them. I'm going to turn up the volume a little tiny bit. Hopefully that helps if anybody can't hear. Try to move my microphone a little bit in a more advantageous spot. Sorry, I'm not the best preset producer. Anyways, so this is just a video. This isn't like a super great day where I'm just in voice and gonna rock out, you know. I mean, this is maybe an average day now that my voice is mostly, and I say mostly healed. For those of you who don't know, I've had a vocal problem ever since March of 2021 when I caught a virus that gave several people that were with me in the same room laryngitis. We all caught it about a week. Within a week, we all couldn't talk. And there was 4 of us that I know of that caught this virus. It was horrible. And later I caught COVID, which is oh so much fun in 2022. But anyways, the one that really foobarred my voice was back in March of 2021. So after a lot of work and a lot of patience and struggling, I've gotten it almost back to where it's dependable again. I started doing live shows this spring. You know, that didn't work out so well because of other people involved. Or mainly one. But let's not point the finger of blame and shame. That's not the point of this video tonight either. I digress. I'm making this video because there is a guy out there, and I'm going to look, excuse me. I was going to take this guy's name. Let's see. He is called Crazy Singing. Crazy Singing on YouTube. And I'm not downing this guy. He's a nice little foreign guy. At least his accent sounds foreign. I can't tell. He's foreign to me. I'm an American fool. But, pun intended, John Cougar. You always be John Cougar. You can call yourself John Mellencamp. Cougar sounds cooler. Sorry, man. The record producer was right. Anyways, aside from my opinions, which opinions are like assholes, everyone's got one. I've already pissed off John and probably everybody else tonight, so why stop? Anyhow, where was I at? Oh yeah, why I'm making this video tonight. I'm streaming it, I'm going to record it, I'm going to post it on YouTube because this Crazy Singing guy that I mentioned earlier, he's making all these videos. And I am not taking away from what he's saying. Axl Rose, great singer, great performer, great writer. He looked pretty cool when he was younger. Caught a lot of chicks' attention, you know. Now age is catching up with him a little bit. You know, it does with all of us. But at least he can still sing. And that's the thing. He's got an incredible voice. Yeah, I mean, I never obviously liked him for how he looked. But I caught a lot of shit because I kind of look a little tiny bit like him. I had long hair at the time. You know, I dress in leather jackets and jeans. There's a lot of things about me that are different. You know, I'm a little taller, maybe an inch, I guess. I don't know. They say he's like 5'6" or somewhere around there. Anyways, I'm like 5'8", I think. Last time I measured myself. I don't measure myself. It's not a big deal. But anyhow, the thing is, yeah, people always compared me. They always, when I'd be out of show, they'd always say, Axl, Axl, Axl. And so I'm watching these videos of these cool vocal things, and they are incredibly cool. I'm not taking anything away from them. Great singers. And that's why I was interested in him and Sebastian Bach when they came out, because they were incredible singers. No matter what they looked like, no matter what their offstage antics were, they could go out and do the shit. And that is so cool. They could go into the studio and they could record it, but then you would see their live show. And I mean, not every night. Some nights you're not in voice. Some nights stuff just doesn't work out. And I'm like that too. Everybody is. Like I said, tonight is not a great voice night for me. It's maybe an average-ish, now that my voice is actually not totally bombarded by virus shit. But that being said, the guy's saying he's just a great singer. All that's true. All that's true. Not taken away from Axl. wherever you are. Incredible. And Sebastian Bach, same thing. Guys talking about him, great singers. I've met Baz once. He's a real cool dude. I don't know what he thought of me. Probably not the same. Anyhow, so this is where I'm at. Oh, I met Kevin DuBrow one time too. He was really cool. Walked up, shook his hand. He's just crazy cool guy. Probably didn't think the same of me. So, back to the whole why I'm making this video. I'm not making this video to make shit out of anybody. And I'm not making this video to say, hey, anybody can do this. Axl Rose and Sebastian Bach, they have got great voices. They have obviously been trained professionally to do these things. And even if you're trained, even if you spend all your time practicing, you might not sound like them. You might not be able to have their range. You might not be able to hit their voices nice and full like they do. I remember when I first started taking formal vocal lessons back in the 90s, my vocal teacher was an excellent singer. Very, very good opera soprano. You can say what you will about her personal choices and things that she did to fuck up my life. Kind of didn't want that in the package of having a vocal teacher, but it is what it is. Pretty sure she moved out at least one of my ex-girlfriends when I was at work. Why, I would not know. Well, anyways, I digress. I digress. At least she taught me how to sing much better than I'd already started to. I would have advanced, but let me be clear to tell you all, I would not, almost assuredly, not a doubt in my mind, would I be as good of a singer as I am today without her tutelage in my techniques, which I paid for. Not just in money, in my personal freaking life, how it affected me with her meddling. So, if you find somebody that can teach you, just be prepared. You know, there's not that many people out there that can do these things, and even fewer that can teach them. She taught them very effectively, breathing techniques, sustained techniques, all sorts of different things, and I had to practice to get there. So, when I do something, don't think, oh, anybody can do this. Because that's what I get a lot of times. I work with bands, and after a month or two or a year, they go, God, you sound like shit. Well, I still sound better than anybody else in the fucking room, dude. Put it on your ears. You know? I don't sound as good as I normally do because something's fucked up. I'm sick, or maybe I sang too many songs that night. Maybe I talked too much and drank too much, or maybe I didn't not getting enough sleep. Big time bad news. You can't sing shit when your voice is tired. You got to get 8 to 10 hours, and maybe a day or two later your voice will come back if you don't get good sleep for a while. Sleep is super, super important. Sebastian Bach did mention that in that mini-series he was in where him and Ted Nugent were jamming together. So, I will tell you this. That is true. You got to get sleep. It does depend a lot on what you eat and a lot of what you drink. You don't want to go out and meet people a lot after the shows because everybody's going to shake your hand and pose for a picture and you're going to get their fucking respiratory viruses, and that's kind of a bad thing if you're a vocalist. And I don't want to get into the whole technique thing, and I don't want to get into the whole how I'm doing things. That's not the point of this video. The point of this video, again, I digress, sorry, is going back to this guy that's got this YouTube video. And there's other people that got YouTube videos like this. And I'm not picking on Axl, I'm not picking on Sebastian. Again, if you get 20,000 people in a room, you might have one person that can hit that note. They are extremely rare. Shit, you might have 500,000 people in the room. Only one, maybe two people can hit that note like they do. Now, take for instance Myles Kennedy. Myles Kennedy's a great singer. I'm not taking anything away from him. However, the approach that he takes to singing the Guns N' Roses stuff, I do not appreciate it. He can hit the notes. Don't get me wrong. Great. Well, he can hit the mid and high notes. He cannot hit Axl's lower range. He's a tenor singer. He does not have the strength Axl has. Axl's way more powerful when he's in voice. I know. I've been in the same room with him when he's been in voice. and I believe it was 2003. Incredible. Anybody who's got a video out there that says that he can't sing that live is full of shit. All right? I've seen him 2 or 3 times live. And the one night he was in voice, you could tell it as a singer. I could tell it. He didn't have any unwanted tension in his voice. He was purposely hitting notes higher and holding them longer than the albums just to do it. It sounded awesome. His band reacted extra. That's the most energetic band I've ever seen, with Buckethead and all the rest of those guys. They were constantly jumping around and banging their heads and stuff. I'm surprised that little KFC bucket stayed on Buckethead's head. Everybody was running around. And they sounded like the album. I mean, most guys, when they run around, they start screwing up. Not these guys. They were crazy. There was 2 keyboard players, 3 guitar players, right? 2 keyboard players, 3 guitar players. Now you got 5 musicians. They're all good. Really great. Really good. Great, maybe. And then you got the drummer. What else? The bass player and Axl Rose. 8 awesome musicians on stage all at once doing their thing. Mind-blowing, even for me. Not just vocally, I play guitar and keys too. It was awesome. I didn't hear a clinker all night between any of them. And I was listening. It was awesome. The crowd left. Everybody was in good mood. Axl came on time. You guys wonder why Axl's late all the time. It's because of 2 things. Number one, he's trying to warm up his voice because he's got to go out 5-6 nights a week or more and do this all the time. And some nights you're not in voice, so he's doing these exercises. Number 2 is he hears what all of you little shitheads in the crowd think you paid to get a ticket, and now you want to give him some stuff. You want to say, oh, well, Axl's probably going to be late if he even shows up. Well, how do you think he's going to feel? He hears you guys. He's not stupid, you know. I wouldn't want to go out and play for a whole room full of people that were giving me shit. Welcome to high school again. Why do you think I never went to any of my class reunions? There was like 5 or 10 people that were cool to me in high school, and the rest of them all blew. Talking about you, Scott Neundorf. I'm talking about you, Chris Tollerton. I'm talking about a lot of people. Right? They're all shitty to me. Well, most of them. And so I've never gone back. I don't care to see them ever again. Pat Gutnick, John, whatever your name was, Len's Cow, whatever it was. You guys, if I ever caught you, I'd beat your ass to this day for that shit. I told you one day I would. I don't care. I'm 51 years old this year. I'd still do it. Put my foot up there, big fuckers. Anyways. I see that Chris Tollerton had a kid. Boy, there's a serial killer in the making. Goofball fucker. So, now that I've pissed off even more people, let's get to the point of this video. The point of this video isn't to give people shit that were assholes in high school. The point of this video isn't to knock down great singers. I definitely am a fan of Sebastian and Axl and all these people, Ryan James Dio, all these guys. Great writers, great singers. But these videos that these guys are making, they're saying that it's impossible for them to sing like they do live. They're saying it's impossible for anyone else to sing like they do. They're saying it's just too much, too good, and it's a studio trick. And when I play out live, I hear all these people. They talk about my effects. Oh yeah, what kind of microphone do you use? What kind of effects do you use? Have you ever tried singing without the effects? Oh, like I could be so much worse if I sang without my beloved effects that I've spent all my money on. Well, the thing is, I gotta tell you, my effects loop is over 30 years old. It's the best one out there. I'm not gonna tell you which one it is because I'm buying all the extra ones on eBay. They don't even make them anymore. So I'm your competition if you're bidding on them. I'm buying the footboard that goes with it. I'm buying the effects loops, and I know how to program them, which is not rocket science, but it's not easy either. So you got to know how to program. You got to know how to use them, and that's what I'm using live. That doesn't make me sound good. That doesn't make me sound great. What makes me sound great is when I can hit those notes that these guys are saying are impossible. And I'm going to back up my bold claim in a few seconds. So, that's the point of this video. They're saying it's impossible. They're saying even the guys that recorded it can't do it live. They're saying a whole bunch of stuff that's just not true. And I'm not taking away from these guys. They're great. And it took me all my life, well, a good chunk of my life anyways, at least 10 years, to get my voice to do the things I want on command. It would do it every once in a while, but not like every night. So, no furthermore being said, I'm going to point out a couple of examples of what these guys say is impossible, and then I'm going to demo it for you. And I'm going to demo it without effects, and I'm going to demo it with effects. So you can see that there's no magic bullet here in this microphone. There's no magic thing that I plug in and make myself in key or vibrate more or get more volume or whatever. There's nothing like that. You've got to have a great voice. You've got to have great technique. You've got to hit the note on key. You've got to have your wind underneath you to make it vibrato and be all loose. These are things that you need to practice every day. You're going to spend your money on gear. You're going to spend your money on vocal lessons. Back in the 90s, I spent over $20 an hour. Actually, it was a half hour, I think it was. Yeah, a half hour of her time. Usually it went to 40 minutes because we always talked. But, I mean, 20 minutes for 40 minutes, or $20 for 40 minutes. 30 minutes of which, 25, 30 of it, she taught me vocal techniques. The rest we just bullshitted. But you're going to get that people are humans. And you're going to learn from that. I mean, that's why these guys are in bands with me. They play with me for a while. Some of them even get to the point where they just don't appreciate what I'm doing. They just go, oh, God, you sound like shit tonight. Well, I'm not having my best night, but I still sound better than everyone else in the room. But some of them even get a big enough head to think that they can do what I do. And they might be good singers. They might be great backup singers. But, and I'll be honest, I have never heard one person that I've worked with that can hit notes like I have. And I'm not slamming on you. I'm just saying, you're not able to do it, and it's not because you don't maybe have the range. It's because you do not put forth the work involved getting there. So, not saying you're bad singers. There's more people that hate me. I'm just racking them up right and left. And some people are going to probably see this and go, God, that guy thinks he's awesome. No, I really don't. But I have worked very hard to do what I can do, and I do it very fucking well. Well enough that if Axl or Sebastian or Ronnie James Dio, were he be alive still, or any of the great singers, Ozzy, any of them could ask me up on stage, and I could sing through their notes on an average night and make them work for their money. I might even outshine them, which I've done in the past to singers, and I feel bad later on when they hate me for it. I'm like, I'm not trying to hate on you. You're a great singer. I'm just trying to go out and keep up. I'm the guest. I'm not expected. You know, everybody thinks the guest is going to suck. Oh, here's the time where their friend comes up and they're going to blow. That ain't the case with me. I'm going to fucking blow, all right? I'm going to blow your fucking doors off, motherfucker. There ain't no halfway. There's no half-mast. Some guy wanted me to play with half of my PA system once in his club. I told him, my PA system's too big for your club. Why don't we just move it out to the street? I got a 220 tap. I never play half-mast. He never called me back. Oh well. Big loss. Not. So, that being said, that's the point of this video. I'm going to cite a few specific passages that this guy says are impossible, and then I'm going to demonstrate with and without effects how I do it and what it'll sound like. And you're going to see it sounds pretty damn close. Now the effects sound better because it's that little bit of fluff that fills in the gaps. It's not just a hard line, bam, in your face. And sometimes you need that. But most songs, you want it to blend a little with your guitar. And people don't get this. When you look at a picture like a Picasso, you see those hard lines a lot of times. There's not a lot of blending with his cubism. Whereas you look at a Monet. Monet's all about shading. That guy that used to do, you guys that aren't art fiend people, okay, the guy that used to do the public service, that the Joy of Painting guy, I'm trying to think of his name, it just escapes me right now. I'll think of it later when it doesn't matter. But that guy, he's awesome. he was all about shading, ghost white. You know, well, your voice is kind of like that. And by the way, music is the most abstract art there is. It's fleeting, it's like a glance. A second in music time is like an eternity. I mean, you paint something, you can touch it. You can't touch music, not unless it's in a sheet, and even then you don't get the, you know, unless you're pitch perfect and humming it in your head, you're not going to get that. You know, you can feel the music. Most people don't realize it. You actually feel it when you're in the same room. Even if you don't hear it, that's why these amplifiers, when they cranked up so loud, they sound better. It's not because the tone changes so much, it's because you feel the vibrations. You're mostly water. Hello? You're going to vibrate. So if you get a pleasant vibration, you're going to feel like it sounds better. And, oh, one more note worth noting. When I sing, I hit so much volume that my microphone vibrates. Just like if you held your phone and it was on vibrate and somebody called you or texted you, that's what my microphone's doing. Just saying. So anybody who's out there and saying, hey, you know, I'm a pretty good singer, I'm not screaming at the top of my lungs. That's because of the power that I've worked all these years, my breathing techniques. They're making me project these notes on key, vibrating, vibratoing, and that's what's making my microphone vibrate. All right? And it's kind of cool, but yeah, it didn't always do that back before I took vocal lessons. I could never make my microphone vibrate like this. It's something I just noticed one day. I was like, holy shit, my microphone feels like my cell phone. Wonder how long I've been doing that, you know? So, without further ado, I've been talking, my voice is getting a little dry. I'm going to grab some water, and we'll get started to the meat and potatoes of this. So I'm going to tell you guys a trick. Always keep your throat lubricated. You can use gum, you can use chiclets, you can use, well, I guess chiclets are gum. You can use Tic Tacs. On a bad night, you can tell I'm having a less than stellar night because I will have lemon and lime slices. Maybe a little sugar. Try to stay away from sugar because it gets sticky, but it makes the lemon and lime a little bit better. And I'll bite on those in between sets, and it keeps the swelling on your vocals it retards it a little bit. It keeps it from swelling as fast. Because I don't care who you are, your vocal cords are going to swell eventually. The more you use them, the more they swell. Even when you talk, how they work in the nature is they vibrate together. But again, this isn't a vocal, instructional tutorial or anything like that. I'm just explaining things so you appreciate them for what they are. So, this guy, I don't want to play his clip and infringe on his copyrights or Axel's or Sebastian's or anybody else's copyrights. But we'll back it up to a note that...
or rasp and sustain, so get ready to have your mind blown. On spot number 3, we have Guns N' Roses' insanely good cover of Live and Let Die. This live performance took place in 2016, a period for Axl's voice that makes him...
Okay, Live and Let Die, the Beatles cover by Guns N' Roses. Live and Let Die, great song. Launch anyways. I don't want to launch anything. Live and Let Die. It's a great song by the Beatles. It is an incredibly different and difficult note. So, I could figure out on the piano. I'm kind of pitch perfect, so I don't have to, and I don't have to think about it. I just do it. But yeah, I could figure it out if I wanted to go, oh yeah, it's exactly this C or this D. You know, some guys, they're pitch perfect and they can just rattle off the note. I'm more of the guy that, hey, I know that note, I'm going to hit it, and I hit it every time. You know, then I got to sit for a second and go, okay, where would that be on the keyboard or the guitar fretboard? But I am pitch perfect, so if you tune your guitars half step down, it's difficult. And if your guitars are recorded half step down and then you play it in 440, it's difficult for me because I want to sing it in the key that I know it in. That being said, so he does Live and Let Die. And the one he's talking about is the vocal phrasing, what does it matter to you? When you got a job, you got to do it well. You gotta give the other fella hell. All right? So when Axl holds out hell, and he's going from that nice clean to the distorted, as he described it, we call it gravel, a lot of us, you know. He's going to that raspier tone. And this guy's saying that this, you know, makes Axl the best singer of all time, which he very well may be. But he's saying in this video that it's impossible for anyone to do that. Well, if you listen to Myles Kennedy, you're going to believe it. No offense, Myles, great voice. And yes, he is a great singer. He's got a tenor voice. He can hit the high notes, but he can't hit the low notes because he isn't a split octave baritone like Mr. Rose or William Bailey, however you want to refer to him. I have a split octave baritone. So that's why I can do this. Again, not saying I'm great. I'm just a guy who's worked at this a long time. And I've got my shit down. So, enough of the talking. Let's get to it. When you got a job to do, you gotta do it well. You gotta give the other fella hell. Okay? Now that's what it sounds like without effects. Now we'll try it with just a little bit of reverb and delay. Check, check. Helps if you turn it on. All right, now I think okay. So again, we're doing the phrasing from Live and Let Die, Guns N' Roses version, of course, not Beatles. What does it matter to you when you got a job to do? You gotta do it well. You gotta give the other fella hell. Okay, put that on any of those tracks that they do live or in the studio. I'm sure I'm pretty freaking close, given I'm not actually Axl Rose. He'll probably sound a little different, but sure as hell gonna sound better than the vibrato stuff Myles Kennedy does, which again, not taking away from Myles, great singer. Just his approach to the Guns N' Roses music is not that aggressive, piercing, volume-esque that I appreciate with Axl. Or Sebastian, or the guy from Nazareth, Dan McCafferty. I met him too, cool dude. Very cool. Anyways, there's another note. And, God, what was it? I gotta flip it on again. Let's see what his next example here is.
Some people say really powerful. In this clip, he will begin singing with a clean tone, and then he will slowly shift into the distorted
Yeah, that's
scream.
the Live and Let Die.
The breath support required to sustain. Axl Rose will go extremely high during this cover
Oh,
of
here we go.
Scared. Axl's distortion is one of the best ones ever. An absolutely perfect match to cover some AC/DC songs, right? I believe Axl sounds amazing with AC/DC, and this clip might convince you of the same. Axl Rose will go extremely high during this cover of Back in Black, reaching a G5, which is the highest note in the entire song. That is in its original key. Even Brian Johnson, AC/DC's only singer to ever sing Back in Black, couldn't.
Axl does a great job. Brian Johnson can sing that note when he's in voice. I've seen him sing it when he's in voice. Given he's not in voice a lot nowadays, but he is getting older. But he can hit those notes. He's hit those notes live many times.
Sing this live in its original key. He would usually drop the song by a few semitones. Yet
No, he
Axl,
wouldn't.
with his amazing high tessitura, finds this insane high register so effortless that he's actually pulling the song off in its original studio key. But live, and the distortion he adds with his ventricular vocal folds make the cover sound extremely epic.
Okay, so they're talking about the ending of Back in Black. where he's going, hey, 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 hey. So, without the effects, hey, 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 back in black. Yes, I'm back in black. Ow! With the effects. Hey, 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 well, I'm back in black. Yes, I'm back in black. Ow! Okay. Again, if you're one of these people with digital audio workstations, feel free to take my vocal and put it in with the music mix. I'm sure it's on key. I'm sure it sounds pretty darn close. Now we'll get to the next example. And again, I'm sitting down for this for laziness reasons. If I stand up, I can use my diaphragm breathing a lot better. And I get a lot more support. I can hold the notes longer. I hit them more full and higher. That isn't the point of this video. The point of this video is saying, hey, here's all these things that this guy is saying are impossible to do live. These guys can't even do it. Yeah, we do. They do it live. I've seen them. I do it live. When I cover the music. God, is that a bug on me? I don't even know what that was. Anyways, next example. And I'm not picking on Axl. Axl's probably one of the best singers, if not the best guy out there.
Able to sing this note without switching into their falsettos. For Axl, however, going this high just makes his voice sound more powerful.
That is a bug,
That's
damn it.
his natural tessitura. Well,
okay, so that is off Chinese Democracy. There was a time, and he's getting that crescendo. I would do anything for you. I will do anything for you. I will do anything for you. With effects. I will do anything for you. I will do anything for you. All right. So, I think that's pretty apparent. Yeah, it can be done live. Yes. Other people can do it if they work their ass off and have a great vocal range. And again, this is not my most in-voice night. If you guys watch me on YouNow, you'll see that some nights I do sing a lot better than this. But that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to say, yes, this isn't impossible.
well, I mean, he sang this note in the studio, but surely he can't reach it in live shows, right? Well, he in fact has hit this note with all his vocal runs live many times, and I found the two best versions, in my opinion. The first one from a 2006 live show is a little better
I don't know why he
from
says
a
it
vocal
really good.
perspective,
In my
but the
opinion.
quality of the audio is
In
quite
my
terrible.
opinion.
So after playing spot number 1, I will add spot number 0 of this list with the other version, which is from 2000.
Oh God, both those versions are so noisy. Oh, he said one was better. The background noise. Ugh. Yeah, I've heard way better live recordings than with this. Yeah, I'm not even gonna play that.
Quality audio from 2009.
Yeah, and that's the better one, which he sings a little lower because he's having a harder night. I can tell he's got some kind of sinus thing going on where he's got pressure in his upper nasal passages. And I have the same thing. He's been screaming for longer too because he's on tour, and you don't hit it quite as clean and high sometimes if you've been playing it for 5 or 6 days. because your vocal cords, oh yeah, they swell like I mentioned. So yeah, eventually they swell too much, you can't make any noise. So you gotta, and I gotta stress this, the things I'm doing here, the things I'm showing you, these all gotta be done with technique. If they're not done with technique, you're gonna lose your voice. And most people lose their voice after maybe half a song, maybe 1 or 2 songs. You got your technique down like I do, you can do these songs all night. Shit, you can do them all week if you have a good week where you're in voice and you're not around smoke and shit like that. So anyways, not taken away from any of these guys, because they are great singers. Oh great, looks like there's some guy doing tutorials on how to sing like Axl Rose. I don't even know if I want to hear that shit. And not to sound like a pompous douchebag. Probably you guys already think that of me. But the deal is that, yeah, most of these guys that I hear claim they sound like him, there are obvious flaws in their logic. Again, you guys might think the same of me, I don't care. But record it, put it in the DAW, and then play it back to back, and you tell me, can you tell the difference? There are subtle differences, I'm not going to lie, but it's pretty subtle. Sometimes I hear the actual recording, and I'm thinking it's me, and then I go, oh, wait a minute, or I think it's Axl, and it's me, or vice versa, you know, when I cover these songs, or Sebastian sometimes, or whoever. That's because I've worked at it, and I've spent money. God forbid you'd spend money to have anybody with some skills that you don't have show you how to do what you do better. Oh, Lord, no, I can come up with it on my own. No, you can't. I never would have came up with these techniques if I hadn't, A, paid somebody else to show me that already paid somebody else to show them. All right? You're just not going to advance that far. Sorry. The next thing is you got to practice every day. You got to know what your voice is going to do when you're not in voice. You got to know when your voice is shit and you're not going to be able to hit anything. You got to have a backup plan. Axl doesn't sound like that all the time. He's got really bad nights and he comes out and tries the side of his way through it and it doesn't sound as good. You know, everybody does it. He's not like this superhuman God, you know. Sebastian Bach, quote him, if you're in your God, show me a miracle. Not that Axl has ever made that claim. In fact, I think he's claimed just the opposite. But he's a hell of a good singer. Both of them are. And I do like that quote, if you're a new God, let me see a miracle. What a great line in a song. That was off the Subhuman Race album, for those of you who've missed it. Great album. I didn't like it at first because it wasn't what I was used to with Skid Row. It kind of sounded Alice in Chainsy with all the talk boxes and things on it. But then I started playing guitar one day and I was like, hey, what's that riff I'm playing? God, that riff is just cool. I was like, oh, that's the riff to Frozen off that Skid Row album I heard about a month ago and thought was crappy. And then I plugged it back in and started listening to it again. And I was like, oh, it was just my attitude that was kind of crappy. Because that album rocks. And it's one of their best albums. Their last album was Sebastian Bach, which to me is really he is Skid Row. I don't care if he's the second singer, the third singer of the band, the singer no more of the band, whatever they want to call it. They should get on their knees and beg Sebastian, or whatever you want to call him, Baz. They should beg him to come back, please, and play their hits. And maybe, God willing, they would even have more hits and not that crap they've been writing lately the last couple of years. I guess there was a 2-part double album thing. I was like, God, they had a second part to that horrible album. Nothing against the singer. He sounds like he's a nice guy. He looks kind of like a cool dude, but the guy can't sing like Sebastian. Blah. I hear his voice and I just want to immediately go to the pause button. Pause! This is not done as well. Even in the studio version, it's like, oh my God, what are these guys thinking? Despite any personal misgivings, get him back. Aerosmith got Steve Tyler back. You think that they would be smart enough to go get the guy that made him famous back, but apparently not. Anyways, there's Impossible Lines by Steve Tyler.
How'd you know?
Let's move right on to the Impossible Lines by Steve Tyler. Not to pick on Steve. Steve's a great singer. Aerosmith's a great band. But we were just talking about him, so why not move on to these guys? Because they say he's impossible.
What do you think he sees in his head when he makes that face?
Koala? Really? It's some... Yeah, he sounds like Steven Tyler. I know. Let's get right into now. It's something about air. And the first guest ever on this channel, Crazy Singing, will explain that to you. And here's him saying hi. Yeah, he sounds like Steven Tyler. I know. Let's get right...
I would say that did sound a lot like Steven Tyler. If I had to close my eyes, I'd be like, fuck, it sounds like Steve Tyler.
Into Steven Tyler's 5 craziest vocal lines ever, like this one from Uncle Salty with an insane octave jump from an A4 to an A5, ridiculously high already, and that classic Steven Tyler sound there at the top.
Get on with it.
Now let's give it up for Sunny here, who's going to explain how this classic Steven Tyler sound is produced.
While I was on the YouTube bench last night watching Dream On cover videos, one part that got my attention was the last part of the song. When the high scream is coming, most of the people are not getting the right sound. Most of the people are using their voice, while Steven Tyler does not.
And I'm actually going to use myself here as an example of using your real voice up there and how this doesn't sound too great.
It's all real voice. There's no fake voice. What are these guys even talking about?
For covering Aerosmith. Here's me hitting the high note in Dream On, but with my regular falsetto, and it does not do it justice. It's just like a very high-pitched Mickey Mouse situation, not very rock and roll. Hey. I know, it's like I'm hitting the pitch, but also it's like Mickey Mouse.
No, you weren't hitting the pitch. And I'm going to describe what he was doing. And I used to do this stuff before I took vocal lessons from a great vocal teacher. What he's doing is he's starting low because he thinks he can't hit that note, rightfully so, and he slides up to it and then loses his air pressure and slides out. So you get this out of pitch, out of key, and then it goes kind of almost to key or in key, and then it goes out. That is a big time giveaway that you do not know vocal technique. I don't care how fucking good you sound, you are not gonna sound good doing that. You slide in, you slide out. I mean, a little bit here and there maybe helps if it's kind of a country bumpkin song, but rock and roll, you want to hit that note flat on it, and you want to loosey goosey do it all, and then if you hit some gravel in there, that's even good too usually. But you want to hit that note and control the bitch, and that's what he's not doing. He's sliding up to it, sliding out. That's
is suffering, so it's not very good. So this is
You're
what
right
Sunny
there.
means by using your real voice. I'm using my voice, my real voice up there. It doesn't sound too good. It's not what Steven Tyler does. Here's how you really do it.
And here I'm using my voice. The toss of the dice! And now I'm gonna use a Steven's technique. The toss of the dice!
And one of the best examples
not
of
how Steven Tyler. Oh my God! Who are these people? That is not how Steven Tyler sings. I can do that shit. I'm telling you, that's not how he does it. Okay, so the end of Dream On. Dream on! Dream on! Dream on! That's how he's doing the shit. Now you want to hear it with effects. Dream on! Dream on! Dream on! And I didn't hit it as clean as I did the first time. I probably should have waited a couple seconds to let my throat relax. Point is that these guys don't know what the hell they're talking about. Wow! And if you guys think that I don't know what I'm talking about, please, by all means, get out your little digital audio workstation or DAW, take any of these waves that I'm putting out there, put the music behind it. I'm probably going to be in key if it's the key it's written in, and you can see for yourself. A-B them. A-B the real vocalist, A-B what I've been doing here on those notes. I'm giving you the songs, I'm giving you the parts of the songs. It ought to be really easy. It'd take maybe 10, 15 minutes out of your day to prove me wrong. But it's not going to happen because I know what the hell I'm talking about. Anyways, these guys are saying it's so impossible to do live. It's not impossible. And Steve does a lot of really cooler shit than that live if you ever get a chance. Pay for that Aerosmith ticket. You're not going to be disappointed.
Steven Tyler really pushing the limits of this technique comes in spot number 4 of this list in the song Crazy, a whistle note that's very famous for being confused with an electric guitar because that's just how high it is.
That is a whistle tone, pretty much, and he's hitting it. It isn't really, I mean, it is a whistle tone for a guy. It's not really a whistle tone for a girl. Girls can hit whistle tones if they can hit whistle tones. Like the Mariah Carey shit when she first came out. They can hit blisteringly loud high notes. And if they can control them, it's super cool. Most of them can't. That's the technique that Steven's doing there. That's more of an example of a guy's whistle tone. I don't even know if I can do it tonight. I can do it on a lot of nights. I can tell you this, I'm probably not going to be able to do it sitting my ass in this chair. Because you can't use diaphragm with you sitting down. Which is why you always see singers standing up.
It is.
Alright, and I also want to mention that you can hear that is being pushed all the way up in his nasal passages, and there's not any snot there, or at least an excess of snot. He doesn't have anything wrong with his nasal passages when he's hitting that note. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to do that, because that, when you hit notes like that, it goes way up into your skull. You can feel the vibration. And if you got gunk up in there, it's not going to sound like that. It's not going to hit that nice, clean high. Now, I've had some snot in my fucking throat for about a week, so it may not hit that. I'll give it a shot. I can do it a lot of nights. Like I said, I'm not having the best vocal night ever, but it's an average. Par for course. Alright, so let's listen to this one more time and I'll stop blabbing.
Because that's just how
Blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to hit it. I got to stand up. And I might not even hit it standing up tonight. I can't be lazy. Fuck. And I should have warmed up for this note. Honestly, I should have warmed up. So, let's listen to that one more time. Oh my God, that's skill.
with an electric
Yeah,
guitar.
I'm not going to be able to hit that note tonight. I can hit it some other nights. I'll try it one more time, just for fun's sake. And in my defense, listen to that again. Let's listen to that.
Because that's just how high it is. How high it is.
And he's got reverb. If you listen, he's got a little bit of reverb on there. So, let's see if I can weasel it out of myself if I get in my own head. If I get out of my own head, I might be able to hit it, even though I haven't warmed up and whatever. We'll give it a shot. Woo! Woo! it's saying nope, and I know it's going to say no because I can do this on good nights. And I just went to hit it, and my throat didn't feel right. It said, no, you got shit in your nasal passage. It's not going to work tonight. So what I would do in a live situation, I would either back off the microphone, I would hit a lower key, or you could always have somebody on a keyboard punch it in. Steve Tyler, on bad nights, if you notice, he has a keyboardist that can cover his vocal lines, and the keyboardist will come in on certain parts if he's having a rough night. Not taken away from Steve. Steve does hit those notes on his great nights, which he has a good many of them. But yeah, I don't think I can hit that note tonight unless I've really warmed up a lot. I mean, let's listen to it one more time. Yep, it's closing off. I lost that note or two. And that's what I'm telling you guys. You're never going to be perfect every night. That's just not going to happen. Steve can't hit that crazy high note every night. He did that day. It's pretty cool. Again, I'm not taking away from any of these guys. I'm just saying this shit isn't impossible. And I will make a video again on a good night when I've got a better vocal thing going on than now. And I will be able to hit that note as I've done many other nights. So, let's see. See what happens.
He sounds so powerful in this concert that the next spot was also sung in the same gig. I listened to this one over a year ago and it still haunts me because
Well, he
how
had a
can
great
man
night that
be
night.
this talented? I think he might be an alien, honestly. Especially after
Yeah, see. Yeah, I mean, he's using the same techniques that Axl uses. He's using the same techniques that Sebastian Bach uses. There's no magic there. It's not impossible. And again, he can't do that every night. He's in voice that night. He's having a great show. What are you going to say to that, You could practice all your life, and if you don't have that range, you're never going to get there. But I guarantee if you have that range and you don't practice, you're not going to get there. If you have that range and you don't pay for a good vocal coach that can teach you, big point, can teach you how to sing like that, you're not probably going to ever get there. I can't say for sure, because someone back down all those decades and hundreds of years ago, someone actually figured it out. And then they taught someone else, and they taught a couple more people. Very few things you're ever going to learn in your life are exceptionally new. Most of the things you're going to learn in your life, somebody's taught somebody else, and it's based on the shoulders of someone else's trial and error. So when you're paying for that vocal teacher, when you're paying for that guitar player, you're not paying them to just show you how to play the guitar. You're paying for their years of experience to advance you past the bullshit, the learning things wrong, the less effective approaches. Great example. Showing a guy a couple weeks ago, a buddy of mine named John Ryan Thompson. Hey, Ryan. He goes by his middle name. I was showing this guy some guitar stuff, and I was showing him the lead riff to Sweet Child of Mine on one of my guitars over at his cool house. And anyways, I'm over his place, and I'm showing him this riff, and I'm showing him on this Fretlight guitar that the fretboard lights up where you put your fingers, and I'm talking to him about why that's advantageous. When you're learning a song, you want to know your economy of motion, where you put your fingers, and you know, you want to think about that before you actually play it, especially if you're learning a song. Now, sometimes I'll be honest, I play things and I go, oh, that sounded cool. Let me figure out what I did. And then I think about economy of motion and how I'm going to do it over and over again, because that's what musicians do. We find a sound and we learn how to master it, and then we manipulate it so that it's in music. When you hear me practice, a lot of times it's going to sound like a bunch of fucking noise. And that's because I'm not playing my chords and going, oh yeah, that sounds so much different than it did last 1,000 times since I learned it. I'm taking little pieces of it and I'm breaking it up and I'm going, well, what's it going to do if I do this? What's it going to do if I finger a little different? What's it going to do if I crank up the volume? What's it going to do if I put a different effect on it? And then how am I going to utilize this? That's how my musician brain works. And you put it together and people go, oh, that sounds really new, when really it's just a G chord or an A chord or whatever they've heard 1,000 times before. It's just done a little bit different, or differently than they're used to. Or maybe it's put together with other chords that you haven't heard as much before. There's that magic that goes to the writing. You only got like 12 tones, right, in the American division of notes. So you better use it well, you know. I mean, you got A, B, C, D, E, F, G. There's 7, but then you divide them into semitones, and you got 12. So it is what it is. When you can play those notes and you can put them together in a way that doesn't sound like they did the last 500 or 1,000 songs that you've heard, that's the magic that I'm talking about, where it sounds great even though it's something you've heard before. It's just done differently. That being said, that's the whole point. Is if you're a vocalist, if you're a guitar player, if you're whatever kind of musician, you're taking those sounds and you're manipulating them, and you're doing it to make this piece of art. And you can't see the art like a picture, and you picture a guy paints it, you can pick it up and take it home, you can touch it. 300 years later, you can put it behind glass and put a whole bunch of laser alarms around it so nobody can take it away from you. And you can show the public, see, this is that cool picture that guy did for me 500 or 1,000 years ago or whatever. Music's not that way. In fact, we didn't even have a way to record music up until the last 100 years. The late 1800s is when we started recording music, and before that you actually had to have the musician in the room with you playing, which again is totally cooler. I mean, like I said, you can feel the music when it's done live. You can literally feel the vibrations. When I'm holding this microphone hitting those notes, you can feel it vibrate. It's going to make your ear perceive it sounding better. And the tape doesn't lie. Record yourself. Always record yourself and listen to it back and go, ooh. I've gotten to the point where I can record myself and it sounds pretty much the same as I thought it was in my head when I did it. It wasn't always that way. You got to pay people that are better than you that can, again, this is key, teach you how to do it. And then, with a lot of practice, maybe you can do the shit that these guys that you admire so much do, or girls in some cases. So that's my point of this video, is I'm not saying that these guys are any less incredible than they are. I'm just going through debunking this guy. He's saying that it's impossible to sing these notes. It's impossible. There's one note that I, tonight, have not been able to hit on an average night for me. Again, I'd like to think that after this late in the game, I'm an above average singer. But that sounds kind of presumptuous. But I've worked damn hard at it. So if you think I'm great, thank you. If you think I'm a jerk, well, you go and work on something for 20 or 30 years and then sell yourself short if you think that makes you better. I don't know. So this is my whole point of making this video. I don't want to take anything away from these guys. They're great singers, but it's not impossible what they're doing. Not everybody can do it, but there are a few of us out there that obviously can. That one track that he played with the other guy, that actually did sound like Steve.
I don't know. It's something high. Yeah, he's...
That did sound a lot like Steve Tyler, and he's using good vocal technique in that. The other ones that I heard, bad vocal technique. And it's not how Steve does it, how he's describing in this video. And I'm not ranking on this guy, this crazy singing guy. He seems like a nice guy. He's younger. He hasn't been around. He obviously hasn't been, like, trained by a good vocal person. Or maybe he's been trained by a good vocal singer, but they haven't been able to teach him, obviously, as well. And he's still referring to things as false voice, or there is a falsetto, you know, the real weak woo, you know, that's not what, I mean, there are songs that have falsetto, like Creep by Radiohead. She's running out. You know, he's using his falsetto, but then he brings it into that nice chest, natural, for a better, lack of a better term, voice. And that's my point, is there's a place for all of these tones if you use them effectively. And if you don't get that vocal lesson, if you don't practice, if you don't eat right, if you don't sleep right, you're never going to get there. It's a whole different ball game than playing guitar, drums, or whatever. And even then, if you're a guitar player, you better not drink. Look at what happened to Eddie Van Halen. And I'm not talking about the cancer either necessarily. Watch any of the documentaries, any of them, and they will talk about how he was suffering. He couldn't even walk because the alcohol had affected him so bad in the 80s, because he'd consumed large amounts for years. He finally stopped doing it because it was going to screw him up and he couldn't play live anymore. You know, not saying you can't drink, but not like he did. It's going to catch up with you and you're going to suffer. You won't play like that forever. The whole thing about being a musician is how good you can control your body. Because you can take this guitar and you can take this microphone, you can take the drumsticks, whatever you want, and you think that sound is coming from the drum, you think that sound's coming from the guitar, you think that sound's coming from the microphone or the PA or whatever, you're wrong. That sound's coming from inside of you. The guitar and the drumstick or whatever it is just a tool. Now try to wrap your head around that. This is a tool. This is a tool. This microphone is a tool. This guitar is a tool. The computer is a tool. All of these are tools to get that music that's inside of you out. Hello? Did the light just click on for some of you? I hope. A lot of guys, they think, oh, if I just got that guitar, I'd be so much better. Well, if you're playing on a piece of crap that has action that high, you better be a slide player. A lot of guys think, well, if I hit that note better, I could have a better microphone. If I could hit that, if I had that other guy's effects loops, I bet you I would sound like him. No, you're not going to. You're not even going to. There's how many guitar players can pick up the other guy's guitar and have it plugged into his rig, and they don't sound like them playing. Listen to any of the great guitar players out there talking about it, or any of the mediocre national guys talk about it. You're not going to pick up Joe Perry's guitar and sound like Joe Perry. That's just not going to happen. You got to be able to play like him, and not very many people can. It's a whole approach, how you finger it, how you. I've gotten so bad with my guitar playing. I've gotten to the point in my life where I'm playing things that I never could have played when I was younger, because I'm sitting back, I'm watching the technique, I'm thinking just like I was showing Ryan. And I started talking about the Sweet Child of Mine riff. I've been playing it correctly, but not efficiently. All right, and I discovered that because I'd never really sat down since I was 20. When I was 20, I was just 18, whatever it was when that album came out. I was just trying to figure out how to play it, and everybody was playing it wrong, including me. And I sat down and figured out how to play it right. Rewind, listen, rewind, listen, rewind, listen. Don't get me started on how good your ear has to be. Something I don't hear nowadays because everybody's got these little DAWs and shit, and they haven't been able to train their ear. But yeah. So I'm teaching him how to play, and I'm watching this little fretboard light up, and I'm telling him how I'm doing this, and I noticed that my fingering isn't as effective as it could be on that main lead riff for Sweet Child of Mine. And I even told him at the time, I said, this is a great argument why you should learn how to do this. You should learn it correctly the first time, because now I've got like 20 or 30 years of bad habits where I play this not as efficiently as I could, and it's going to make me screw up sometimes. Where if I would have learned it like this, which is a slight variation, just one finger away, you know, if I would have learned it in the natural D formation on the 12th fret, instead of Sloppy Boy doing it by taking my third finger and just second finger, whatever it is, and just muting it and, you know, or pressing it over and barring it, whatever you want to call it. If I wouldn't have done that, it would have been better. So, yeah, I mean, learn the natural D formation. It's a little bit more cramped and kinkier on your fingers, but it's a way better technique. So that's the kind of shit you're going to see if you take the approach that I've been taking the last several years. When I play any of my instruments, I go, okay, well, what am I doing here? What's the best approach? You know, what's the most economy of motion I could drag out of this? What finger do I have where? What fretboard? Where am I at on the piano keyboard? Where am I at vocally? You know, did I get enough sleep last night? Probably shouldn't try that note. We'll give it a shot and we'll see. You know, how's my phlegm situation been? If I know, like this last week, it's been giving me some problems, well then, let me elaborate what problems are, because vocals are so much different. Problems are, at 1 o'clock in the morning you wake up because you've got sinus pressure and it's disturbed you enough to where you can't sleep anymore. So you go over to the bathroom sink, which preferably is a room or two away, because you're tired and you're not feeling good. And you hack and you farmer blow enough snot in the sink that you've got to take out your drain, your hair screen in the bottom of the drain to wash down the mucus that you've just coughed up in the sink. And I do that sometimes 5 or 10 minutes. That's what I call, okay, you might want to watch your notes days. That's kind of what I got now. I not bad. I can still hit a lot of notes, but you want to be aware of that. And that's what you're going to get if you have a good teacher and you practice the techniques they show you. Even if you're not having a great night, even if you're having a bad night, you can usually slip by without doing too much damage to your voice, and then you can come back and kill them next time because you haven't wrecked it. So again, all these things are important, but that's not the reason why I'm making this video. The reason I'm making this video again is to show you guys that this guy is going out there saying these things are impossible and it's just they can't do it live. That's bull. They can do it live when they're in voice. Just like Steve there when he was doing that. He was in voice that night. I've heard him on tapes where he's not in voice and he doesn't sound that good. He sounds great, but he doesn't sound super great. Like that night, he might as well, I refer to it as a Superman thing. You're Superman. When you're hitting your notes and you're in voice and you're at the top of your game and you're a vocalist that can do this shit, you feel like Superman. You're flying around 5-10 miles above everybody and you're seeing shit that's not right and you're using your laser beams to fry it and people are shooting at you and bullets are bouncing off and nothing's hurting you. You're just zapping things and flying away and woo, done deal. Now, on nights when you're not in voice, but you can still kind of make it through, you're like Superman without his cape. He can't fly now, but he's still running around on the ground super fast, zapping things right and left and blowing shit up. And, you know, bullets are still bouncing off him, but it's not as cool as flying. That's the difference between an in-voice night, when you know what you're doing, and an off night. And I would definitely say I'm not having an in-voice night. I'm not having a great night. I'm not having an off night, but I'm not on. I'm somewhere in between. And that's the important thing to take away. see, there's just one note by Steve and I couldn't hit tonight, and you guys will be, oh, see, that guy was right. That is an impossible note. No, it's not. I hit it when I'm in voice, just like Steve when he's in voice. And we use the same technique, big surprise. Like I said, nothing is new. It's been around for hundreds of years, or at least the last 100, because somebody taught Steve, guarantee it, he didn't come up with that all on his little lonesome. He might tell you he did, but Billy Gibbons says that he plays with 7-weight strings on his albums. Not true. And Billy, I love you, but you're a liar when you say that. And I don't blame you. Eddie Van Halen used to lie to people too, because he didn't want them to come up with his secrets. If you know everybody's secrets and you practice their techniques enough, then where's the, they worked for years to get those tones. Why is he going to come on and tell every idiot with a YouTube channel and a guitar and an amplifier exactly how he sets his rig up so they can try to emulate him? Billy's magic. You can always copy it. You ain't never going to be that guy. And that's what I'm trying to get through to you guys. It's not impossible. It's just not likely unless you put in the work like they did. And when Billy's telling you that he plays on weight 7 strings or whatever it is, extra lights, and he brings it all out of the amplifier, no. I've played guitar for years. As I said, I've trained my ear way back before the internet and digital world started. And I can tell you, he's playing most of those tracks with some nice thick 10s at least. Now live, he probably does play with 7s because it's a lot less work. But there's one way to get some of those tones. Not all of them. Some of them he probably does use 7s. But there's a lot of songs where he is drop tuned or straight tuned and he is using thick strings. And I'll tell you what, if you use 7s on a straight G tuned guitar, it's going to sound shitty because it's like little rubber bands. You can't play anything because it doesn't have enough spring back. When you lower your tension on a guitar, when you lower your tension, this string is set up in a 440. It's got so much tension. When you lower the tension by detuning it, you're lowering the tension on the spring, which makes a lower tone when it vibrates. You better do something to compensate it because you loosened it. And everybody knows loose string plays like crap. So the way you do it is you get a thicker string. And then you can detune it. It'll be at the optimal tension and it'll still have enough smack back to where you can play those nice riffs that you've worked so hard to learn as a finger athlete. Because that's what you are as a guitar player, you're a finger athlete. Be honest, it's how fast and how clean you can do your little maneuvers. Just like a gymnast. Except instead of using your whole body, well, you do use your whole body. Stand up, I guess. And you do walk around, that's harder. And you got to use your elbow and your arms and your torso. I mean, it is an art. But mainly, it comes down to your arms and hands. And you don't want anything to mess up your arms and hands. Talk to Dave Mustaine about that. Dave Mustaine almost lost his use of his left arm. Again, look it up. I'm not just making this crap up. He used drugs, he fell asleep, his arm was over the chair. When he woke up, he couldn't feel anything. Kind of a bonehead move. Again, lots of love for Dave out there. I'm glad he was able to fix himself with the acupuncture and whatever else he did. Deals with the devil, I don't know. But they told him he was never going to be able to play guitar again. And that was a nerve specialist. And he's out there doing it. Again, nothing is impossible if you got the right tools and the right approach. And that's what Dave had to use. Right tools, right approach. He didn't necessarily know about fixing his body, but he went to somebody who did. And they got him to what he's doing now. I'm sure he didn't go out to the crossroads and sell his soul. Maybe. But that seems pretty easy to me. I mean, I doubt very much as you all want to believe, that some devil is out there and he's going to make you the best musician of all time. And your hair is going to grow out, and you're going to grow taller, and you're going to move in with a whole bunch of hoes, and You know, you're going to play music and it's going to rock and you're going to make hit albums and get real famous and rich, and then all you got to do is go to hell afterwards. Well, why wouldn't everybody do it? A moment of glory, you know. Come on. It's not that easy. It's way harder than that. You know, and some days I wish that it was just some easy magic bullet. I could pay a toll or whatever and get the shit through the mill. That's not how it works. You got to put in the work. You got to put in the time. You got to put in the money. Everybody wants to think they can learn how to play guitar and sing for free. Well, you can, but you're not going to advance to the level of Steven Tyler, of Axl Rose, of Sebastian Bach, of myself, or any other great singer, Ronnie James Dio, Dan McCaffrey. All these guys can sing great. Rob Halford, Judas Priest, Jeff Tate, Queensryche. All those guys took vocal lessons, whether they tell you the truth or not. And they probably would never have reached the pinnacle of their abilities if they had not taken those lessons. That being said, most of the people that have talent like that don't take lessons. They don't put forth the work. And that's really the main point of this video. I'm not trying to put down a little crazy singing guy. And I'm not trying to put down any of the artists that I've profiled tonight. What I am trying to put down is the idea that things are impossible and that these rock singers or any singer, Pavarotti, any of them, they can't do this stuff, or they did it once in their life and now that's all, or they bumped it up digitally and now that nobody... No. Maybe some people bump things up digitally. Try it with some of Axl and Sebastian stuff. Those guys, and Steve Tyler, those guys are doing things that auto-tune just, pardon my opinion, but it can't keep up with them. You cannot keep up with something like that. You can alter it, sure, you can apply that effect, but it's just like a digital delay or like a reverb or something. When you put that on your crappy tone, if it's a crappy tone, it's going to sound like worse, because you applied an effect to it to magnify it. That's all I'm doing. I'm taking the basic tone when I sing, and I'm putting a little flavor to it and making it bigger. If you hit something off key, you don't want to make it bigger. You don't want to do that. And that's the thing that a lot of guys and girls think. And they'll make comments like, you know, gee, do you ever sing without effects? Or, oh, I wonder what you'd sound like if you didn't have your microphone, or, you know, well, I'd sound just like I do now, except without reverb and delay. It's not a magic fix-all. It's not something you can hide behind. Now, a guitar player, I'll say this much, you can make it so muddy that when you're slightly off key, if you don't really screw up, it's really hard for you to pick out. But that's a guitar. And that's, again, you're not going to be able to play really cool riffs super fast like Adrian Vandenberg from Whitesnake or Randy Rhoads. Those guys played mostly clean. Now, there was a nice bite to their tone, and they did play with some distortion. That comes from the Marshall and GHS boomers. GHS did not pay me to say that, and if GHS would be so kind to throw some money my way, that would be awesome, because I don't make much money at all. Actually, this year I've made zero money at my music, okay? And that's because my band hasn't been playing out, and because I live in Iowa. So there's very limited places to play. There's very limited places to go if you're a musician. There just is. And there's limited people who come out to see you in a show. You'll get a couple hundred people, but you're not gonna get that big crowd like New York, where you could play every night. Or, you know, District of Columbia's got 17,000 some people per square mile. I always got 55. 55 people per square mile versus 17 plus thousand people per square mile. You do the math. You live in a big place like District of Columbia or New York, you're going to be able to make a living in being a musician. I don't want to live there. I want to live somewhere warmer. So if there's a band out there with a 76 degree median temperature, maybe in Peru or, look me up. I might be interested. But yeah, Puerto Rico would be a blast. Just throwing it out there. But yeah, so I guess that's the point of my video. That's the point of this, and I've been blabbing about a whole bunch of things. I'll see if anybody's even watching me. I don't know. I'm
What is that?
streaming.
Welcome back to Crazy Singing. I covered the
I didn't tell you you could talk. I was talking to the other people. I'm streaming live. We'll see what other people say. If anybody's gonna watch me, I probably bored you all to death. Well, let's see. Ah, where am I at? I thought I was going live. Oh shit, I wasn't going live. Well, I guess there goes that idea. Unless you guys want me to do more vocal stuff. Why not? Wow, I totally thought I hit that button. That sucks. Let's see what else he says. Let's go to this YouTube channel.
3 craziest Axl Rose vocal lines on my first video on this channel, and the support was just amazing, so I thought it deserved a new episode. Today we have 3 times Axl Rose decided to show off his vocal thing, a period shift into distorted
Yeah, we already
scream.
watched this one.
This is such an impressive demonstration of his vocal skill. Just check.
Oh, that was kind of an interesting. Axl Rose versus Auto. Okay, the video here is called Axl Rose versus Auto-Tune. We were just talking about this. Let's see what they do. I've never watched this video. This is my reaction to it, if you will. What it's worth. It's out there on YouTube if you want to look at it. I kind of know what I'm going to expect. It's going to be not as good with auto-tune, but
Dreams come true, right here. This is what revolution looks like.
Who doesn't want to become the talk of the town here?
I just don't want to listen to
For us to
advertisements.
show people who we truly are.
God, I
Hello
hate
there, my name is
advertisements.
Mark, and welcome to Crazy Singing. When I made this video about Axl, I got some comments suggesting that his voice might have been processed with Melodyne. But what's Melodyne? It's the preferred pitch correction tool for when you do not wish to achieve a robotic sound effect.
Axl does not use Melodyne. I'm sorry, there's just no way that would work with what he sings. But I digress. Let's go on.
If Axl's voice presents some type of robotic intervention during the album Chinese Democracy. And after that we will slap some real robotic autotune on Axl's vocals so we can see what that's like. But before we can solve this incredibly difficult question, we need to do some incredibly professional analysis. And the releases from this album showcase an incredible amount of autotune which was later on removed. So we know that they were using autotune during the making of Chinese Democracy, during the mixing, but did they keep it? It would honestly
No.
be weird that they removed it entirely if they were using it. I mean, why would they be using it in the first place? It is way more likely that they were adjusting how much of this effect they wanted.
No, they weren't doing that. I'll tell you how they were using it. They were using it to see what key it's going to sound best in. These guys that make albums and pick what key it's in, like, you ever wonder why somebody tunes an album down a half step, or one song on the album down a half step, or then the next song straight tune, the next song's 4/40? The reason they do that is so that they give a little bit more flavor to it. Songs are going to sound differently if you play it. Mick Mars is a whole step down, all right? Those songs sound totally different because he thickens up his strings and he tunes his guitar way down. And instead of playing C, he's playing D. Because instead of playing C, he's playing D, C, D, yeah, because D would be higher. Anyways, it's a mind fuck. But he's playing the same thing. You can be in tune and you can play the Mick Mars songs, like for Motley Crue, but it's not going to sound like Motley Crue. You're going to be missing something. You're going to sit there driving yourself crazy. What am I missing? What am I missing? Oh, it doesn't sound right. You think it sounds right, then you record it, then you A-B them, and Mick Mars is always going to sound better. Why is that? Well, because he's tuned his guitar down and he's Mick Mars. You know, but a big part of it is he's tuned his guitar down, he's set his amplifiers and things up to make those lower tones sound good. And then he goes and does it differently. Different strings. I can play a D on the last three string, or the first three strings, and I can play a D on the middle strings, and that D is going to be the same chord. It's going to sound different. It's in a different spot of the neck, same friggin' notes, thicker strings, all that. And this is the kind of thing I'm getting to. It's not impossible to get these sounds, but you got to know what you're doing. So this guy, he's talking about Guns N' Roses using auto-tune. Most likely, I don't know, I wasn't there, but most likely what they're doing is they're recording this, and there's a lot of different ways you can sing a song, and there's a lot of different pitches you can use. To expedite it and to be nice to Axl and not make him work so hard, I'm sure that they probably did say, well, what would it sound like if we moved him up a key? You know, what would it sound like if we moved him a semitone over? What would it sound like if instead of playing C4, he sang it in C5? I mean, these are just basic things. What if we move the whole song to G? Well, you don't want him to come in and sing it in G just because it might sound better. So they're going to record the song in whatever key they do, probably 440, and then they're going to bump it in the studio to get it to a different key to see, okay, well, which one? Yeah, I thought that key sounded better too. And then they're going to get the band to come in and record that in the actual key that it sounds best in. You're paying people a lot of money because they're taking that time and figuring this out. When you're a new musician or when you're a guy that doesn't have these resources, or a girl, you've got to sit back. A person, let's go person. When you're a person and you're starting out, you don't have those resources to pay these people like, you know, great producers. You know, I don't want to name off any of them, but you know, there's like the guy in the one video that John, what's that guy's name? He's in one of these searches that I've got up here. I can't think of him. I'm bad with names, admittedly so. But, where's he at? He's got like a zillion of these videos out there. I'll think of it later when it doesn't matter. But anyways, so, yeah, but you can get, like, these great producers, and they'll sit back and they'll go, oh yeah, well, instead of doing that key in A, you should do it in B, and it would sound better. Instead of doing it in that, you should sing it. Instead of phrasing the voice, if you ever watch the Aerosmith video, oh God, I think it's is it Ezra? Anyways, one of the guys that writes with Aerosmith, he's the guy with the fuzzy hair and the glasses, if I remember right. He's telling Steven, I believe it was The Pump, and they were talking about Love in an Elevator, and he was doing the song. He's like, no, phrase it like this. You know, things like that. And Steven's sitting there practicing it, and that's the one that went on the album. These guys think of that stuff, and Steven, I'm sure, does too, a great bit. But he relies on these other people who are great songwriters and musicians to help him to get the best product out there in a timely manner. Nobody's got 10 or 20 years to make another album. So yeah, they're going to go out there and they're going to get the auto-tune people, and they're going to sit back. You know, maybe Axl's going out and eating supper one night. He's doing other things he's got to do, take a shit, whatever. You know, maybe he's going out and trying to bang some chick, whatever he's doing. But the thing is other people are sitting back doing some of the grunt work now that he's made it. He's paying them to do that. And then when he can go into the studio and sing, he's like, well, so how am I going to do this? And they're all like, well, you know, it sounds better in this key. And maybe if you did it just a little differently here or there, and he tries it, sounds great. Or maybe it doesn't, and they pitch it. But usually it's going to sound great. And there's a reason, because these guys have trained themselves and their ears. There's people that can hear stuff. I can hear the same thing. And there's people that can hear that and go, oh, do this. Or, oh, that's what's going on here. And I'll go, oh, I never thought of that before. Training your ear. Big time. First time I heard Welcome to the Jungle, I never noticed that Axl said, oh my God, at the beginning. I always listened to it on cassette tape. The fidelity isn't there. So I knew how to play the song. And then one day I go to this girl's house, and I'm listening to the CD, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. There's something there. Did they remaster that? What the and they're like, no, that's always been there. Like, wow, I never noticed. I listened to it back. I'm like, yeah, I can hear it plain as day now. And I went back to my cassette and I listened and I listened and I listened. And then one day I was like, oh yeah, I can hear it. But I'm not playing it through a boombox. I'm playing it through some good speakers, higher fidelity equipment. You know, you're playing it through a little ghetto blaster, what we used to call them. You're not going to hear that fidelity that comes through with a CD. You're sure as heck not going to hear. Well, anyways, I digress. This guy's going to talk about auto-tune and Axl, and you can't do the stuff Axl does with auto-tune. It's just not going to make a difference. Auto-tune can't keep up. But I know this. Let's see what this guy finds out.
So for now, everything points to yes on the autotune, but we're going to actually make some deeper analysis. I run Axl's isolated vocals on the track There Was a Time through a pitch graph display, and we can see some inconsistencies. His vibrato on this note has robotic oscillations. They're honestly hard to listen to, but seeing it like this, it becomes obvious that there are some robotic oscillations going on. While the vocals honestly sound natural throughout the entire song, there's a few pitch slides like this one in which you can hear a little bit of that robotic effect. Other than this fragment, it sounds extremely natural, so the use they did of pitch correction, Melodyne, or autotune was subtle. That's, by the way, the most impressive Axl Rose vocal line I have ever heard in my life.
That's what he said about the IRS one a couple videos ago. Anyways, they are great vocal lines, don't get me wrong. What you're hearing there is not auto-tune. Again, I wasn't there. I can't prove it. But I am a musician, and I do record notes like this, and I can tell you auto-tune doesn't correct those. What I think is hearing, and it is mechanically altered, and don't everybody jump my case on this. What happens is when you get in a studio situation and you're not playing with a live musician, or sometimes even when you are, it's not as in the pocket on the one, right? Sometimes you'll be a little before or a little bit after, and they've got these things where they stretch it or they scrunch it, and that will make those kind of artifacts there. My guess is he was just a tenth of a second or so off, maybe a hundredth of a second off. And they were like, oh, here's the one. And they bumped it because nowadays everything's got to be on the one. You can't play behind the drums. There's videos again about that if you want to look it up. Back in the 80s, everybody played a little bit behind the groove. Now everything's on the one. So, that is my guess, is what they did, is he maybe missed the one. And you could sit there and you could sing it 1,000 times until you get it right, or you lose your voice, and then you come back next week and you, who wants to wait for that when you can just take that little bumper, a little thing in your DAW, and go whoop, and it sounds almost perfect. I'm not going to waste my time as an artist doing that. I wouldn't expect Axl or anyone else to either when they're mixing it. Oh yeah, let's call up Axl Rose and get him to come in here and sing this 1,000 more times until we get it exactly right, because we don't want to just take this little digital tool of ours and move it. Again, it's like tools. Guitars, computers, they're all tools to manipulate the music from inside you. Now, do not confuse that with somebody hitting a button and playing an arpeggio. There's a lot of things where you hit one button and it plays a complicated arpeggio and you think that's writing music. I'm sorry, it's not. I don't care if you program the arpeggio. Music is when somebody can take something like a guitar, or piano, or drum, or vocals, whatever, and they can actually use that tool to make it. Now there's a fine line, but it's pretty distinct. You're taking a keyboard or a triggering device and you're programming a sound wave, like an arpeggio, a cluster of notes, for those of you who don't know the term. It's like you're taking the C chord, instead of playing the chord, you're picking out the notes in the C scale. So, an arpeggio, you're taking this cluster of notes and you're recording it, and then you hit a button somewhere, or a string or a trigger, you know, like you'd have anything, you'd have a little sensor and you'd hit this bottle here and it'll trigger it. And I don't have anything against triggers, don't get me wrong, but when you're getting it to play your whole song for you, why don't you just have the musicians show up and they'll hit a trigger, and then Duff will come up and hit the trigger and play the bass, and Steve will hit the trigger and play the drums, and then Axl will hit the trigger and he'll play the vocals, and they could just sit back and drink tea while you watch them. That's not music, right? It's not live music. So that's not what they do every night, because they're real musicians and they're talented musicians. Why would they trigger their whole show? But a lot of people will sit there and they will sit there with a keyboard or some instrument, some tool, and they will trigger it to play big parts of the song, like whole solos or parts of the solo that they can't physically play. You're really going on a slippery slope there. I would say on songs like Bohemian Rhapsody, where they've got 20 or 30 different overdubs on each person's vocal, you might want to trigger some of the background vocals. But that's a rare case. You know, if you don't have enough guitar players, or you don't have a keyboard player and it's got a minimal guitar part, like, you know, maybe a Mr. Crawley, you know, yeah, you probably want to play, you know, that keyboard part, at least the intro, to trigger it, because if you don't have a keyboard and you want to play the song, you got to do what you got to do. I'm not taking away from that, but I'm saying if you think that's music because you're triggering something and it's playing, especially if you didn't make the wave. There's a lot of guys out there that take their arpeggio and they just play this arpeggio and somebody else wrote it and it's a pre-programmed effect. And those guys are the worst. You know, you're standing on the other guy's shoulders that made the effect. And I'll admit, I use the pre-made arpeggios too, but I also sing, I also play guitar. I also a lot of times alter those arpeggios a lot. Or if they're perfect the way they are, then I don't mess with them and I put them in. But that's not solely what you're hearing when you play my track. I don't sit there and play one key or play a variety of keys and arpeggio my way through it and call it a song. That's not writing music. They're taking a tool and way overusing it, just like these auto-tune people. A lot of guys, girls can't sing for their life, and they will bump them in. Now, when you got stuff like what Axl and what Sebastian are doing, I can tell you, you can't auto-tune that crap in. You know, these mechanical things that he's doing, you know, he's pointing out that they've done to the vocals, I should say. Those are just, they're probably most likely, and I've done this to my own stuff, and I try to make it sound as natural as possible. That's how I know what I'm hearing. They're trying to get it on the one. It's maybe a little before, it's a little after, and it's bothering them. So they're bumping it a little bit to get it exactly on the cue with the bass or the guitar or the drums or whatever. They do it with all of the music, the guitars, the drums. That's the world we live in. Everything's got to be exactly precise on the one. If you listen to jam tapes, you're going to hear stuff that's behind the beat, it's ahead of the beat, maybe some of it's on the beat. Even the best musicians ever, they're going to be a little bit off. Sometimes it sounds really cool, like Black Betty. Listen to that guitar riff. Da 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 da. You know, I mean, he's hitting that da da. He's hitting that. Whoa, Black Betty. Da. Bam balam. Whoa, Black Betty. Da. On the guitar. Bam balam. That's what gives it the punch, because it's behind the beat. A lot of guys don't play it that way. A lot of guys play, whoa, Black Betty, bam, bam. There's no dunk. They play the dunk when the guy's singing Betty, and it sucks. If you're one of those guys, I just made more friends. Maybe you've played the song incorrectly for years, and you just now noticed it when I said this in this video. Sorry. I've been there. Sometimes somebody goes, oh yeah, it's almost right. You just do this. Well, like I said, My ear's real good, but there's people out there that are better than me. I definitely realize it. So my whole point in this video, again, one more time, I digress, sorry again. Felt like talking tonight. But the deal is that not everybody can do this, but it is not impossible to do if you have the ability and you put forth the effort and the money. And there's no way around the money. I know a lot of guys and girls think, oh yeah, I can just work like a little dog and get it. Eventually I can watch enough YouTube videos and figure it out. Don't be that person. See, he agrees. He says, don't be that person. You gotta be the smart little monkey who goes out and finds somebody better than them and apprentices. Even if you have to pay them, which, hello, only makes sense. You're trying to learn something that they took their time in this world to get good at. And somebody probably showed them, and they probably had to pay that person. And the list goes on as the chain lengthens. Anyways, I think that's about it for this one, and hopefully we will catch you next time.